Hello, the Pioneer viewers. How are you doing? I hope you're healthy and well. As the Pioneer team, we are back with a new part of our map report. In a moment, we will discuss the solid developments on the front line with MMAP. The Russian army continues its attacks persistently, especially on the Donetsk front line. This insistence is actually a bit familiar, like the insistence that I'm an artificial intelligence. Dear viewers, I am not artificial intelligence. I bet artificial intelligence still cannot report as well as me. After this little information, we can move on to our map report. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and agenda reports prepared by the Pioneer team. You can also support me and my hardworking team by using the super thanks button below the videos. This support will make us very pleased. Let's start if you are ready, the Pioneer reports. Let's start with the latest developments in the Zaporizhzhia-Kozel line. According to the latest report, the Ukrainian armed forces have largely seized the initiative on the Zaporizhzhia front line. We can understand this from the following points. As you may recall, Russian troops have been attacking on several different fronts to repel Ukrainian troops in this region for quite some time. But now the situation is different. One of these fronts is the western side of the Robotin sector. Here, the Ukrainian armed forces conducted a successful defense operation for about 2 months. During this time, the Russian troops were worn down. Therefore, the Ukrainian armed forces took advantage of this opportunity and went on the offensive. According to the latest reports, the Ukrainian armed forces made new gains during the offensives in the western part of Robotin. The initiative here is now largely in the hands of the Ukrainian armed forces. We have often referred to the struggle of the initiative here before, and now we have entered the days when the Ukrainian troops will make new gains. The borderline between the two armies is quite mobile. Although there are changes in the favor of both sides, the Ukrainian army has an advantage over the Russian army. There is a similar situation in the Verbov direction. According to reports, the Ukrainian armed forces have launched a large wave of attacks in the Verbov direction. It is reported by many sources that Russian troops are facing heavy losses at some points. However, these reports have not yet been confirmed. We anticipate that we will have more information about the developments here in the coming days. In the Novoprokopivka region, the situation seems to be slightly more in favor of the Russian army. According to reports, Russian troops in this region still have the ability to actively carry out offensive operations. With the clarification of the situation in Robotin, we can say that the Ukrainian troops will take the initiative in Novoprokopivka. Let's continue with the artillery activity in the region. According to the latest reports, artillery units of the Russian armed forces targeted the west of Robotin, Molotokh-Makhta, Orikhiv, and Vasiliivka. On the other hand, artillery units of the Ukrainian armed forces targeted Russian armed forces units stations in Novoprokopivka, Verbov, Novodonetsk, Inchenkov, and Solotka-Balka. Let's continue with the latest developments on the Donetsk front line. On the Donetsk front, the Russian armed forces continue to attack Novomikhailivka from the south and the east. In this region, Russian forces have not been able to advance for a long time. Therefore, the Russian armed forces have deployed new Russian troops here. But the fact that the losses in the Russian troops here cannot be stopped has not changed. The Russian army is still persistently carrying out meat attacks. It is claimed that the number of Russian soldiers lost during the meat attacks is the highest collective losses since the beginning of the war. In addition, units of the Russian armed forces seems to have made a small advance in the Grigoriivka and Permyanskoye area. For the time being, these developments are not of a nature of the effect over all front line. Nevertheless, the Ukrainian defense forces must exercise greater control here. In the southeast of Avdiivka, there is a pro-Russian domination. This situation has also emerged as part of the tactics of the Ukrainian armed forces. However, entering Avdiivka from the southeast has not yet given the Russian armed forces the opportunity for operational success and a strategic move. Fierce counterattacks are taking place in these areas. However, the tactical advantage is still largely in the hands of the Ukrainian army. The situation is the same in Stepnoe and Novobakhmutovka, controlled by the Ukrainian armed forces. The demarcation line between the two armies is stably maintained. However, the intensity of the fighting is increasing every day. The losses caused by such intensified clashes may lead to changes in the front line. Let's continue with the artillery activity in the region. According to the latest reports, artillery units of the Russian armed forces targeted Pobeda, Krasnohorivka, Horlivka, and Novomikhailivka. On the other hand, artillery units of the Ukrainian armed forces targeted units of the Russian armed forces stations in Mariinka, Slavny, and Staromikhailivka. Kiivka. Let's look at the latest developments on the Bakhmut front line. According to reports, on the Bakhmut front line, units of the Russian armed forces captured a number of positions in the Ivanivsky area. Here we see that the Ukrainian armed forces are pursuing a tactical strategy of retreat. We have already mentioned earlier, the defense line here is retreating even further. Therefore, it is a normal situation. On the other hand, the units of the Russian armed forces are also attacking Bogdanivka. However, the Ukrainian armed forces have stabilized the situation here. We cannot talk about territorial gains by the Russian troops in the short term. We also observed that the units of the Russian armed forces are carrying out offensive actions from Vasyolovloy towards Vamiivka and then Supernoe area, but there are no new developments in these regions either. It should also be noted the following. Today, the southern wings of the Bakhmut had a quiet day compared to the previous days. There were no Russian attacks on the dominant hills in Klishchivka and Andreevka today. Let's continue with the latest developments on the Luhansk front line. According to the latest reports, units of the Russian armed forces continued their offensives against Belgorovka in the Shturbiansky forested area south of Dibrova near Terny. Counterattacks continue with intense intensity. In addition, after the capture of Karmakoli in the Russian armed forces, were expected to advance towards Brestepnovoy. In other words, tactically, it would be a great advantage for them to advance here because the control of the N26 section was in the hands of the Ukrainian army. If this control is not destroyed, it would seriously complicate the logistics of the Russian armed forces in the village and the entire southern bridgehead. However, we see that the Russian forces did not realize the expected move. We also observed that Ukrainian troops attacked Sinkiivka. Ukrainian armed forces continue to hold their positions in this area as well. The borderline is largely stable. So, what do you think? How long will the superiority of the Ukrainian armed forces on the Zaporizhia front line continue? Do you think Russian troops will seize the initiative again? What do you think about the latest situation on the Luhansk front line? Let me know in the comments. You know that I read and I care about all your comments.